Happy Wednesday. Hope this finds you faring well. Tonight I wanted to dive into a little bit of the topic of kind of where the market's at and what we're seeing. I know we've kind of talked about a lot of things in the last 40 days. We talked a lot about the market up front. We've kind of been dipping into it, but I just wanted to kind of come back around and give a little bit of a where we're at. There was a lot of predictions and now we're getting deeper and deeper into it. Overall, our market's doing okay. It still feels like in certain sectors that somebody hit the pause button. Certain price points, specifically upper end stuff, that stuff just feels very, very stagnant. There are some showings, but that is a little bit quieter for us. Though we're not seeing a lot of price drops. It literally feels like the pause button was set or was hit, and that's not too surprising for us. Some of the lower price markets are actually moving quite quickly and quite intensely. There just isn't a lot of homes for people, and as we've talked about before, people are looking to buy them. Now, in an interesting note, from a showing perspective, I know I talked about showings a couple of nights ago, maybe a week ago. Showings are continuing to see a pretty significant rise. At the bottom of this, when we kind of saw the biggest drop off in showings, we were just under 50%. So Chicagoland area, Illinois, which is most of our traffic is going to be in Chicago, but those numbers were coming in at around 49%. We've seen about since the worst point, which was in the beginning of April, that's when we saw it. Not the first week that the order went into place, but kind of shortly after that, when the reality fell in, and we saw the showings really cut back. But since then, we've seen about a 30% rise in those showings. So we still have a far way to go, but definitely some more confidence, more people getting out there. Obviously, our protocol is up, and people are feeling safer in doing it, and they have to do it. So that's showing us once again that there still is a good pulse out there. Obviously, our inventory is a little bit lower. The homes coming on the market are a little bit lower. The homes going under contract are a little bit lower, but we are seeing some growth in that as well. So it's still not where we want it to be, but it's not falling off any heavier than expectation. So all of that is pretty much in line with what we originally were predicting. From the home values perspective, kind of I think I've said before, in my mind, the only thing that could really derail the housing sector in this would be a flood of foreclosures. That's still something that we have, despite what's going on in the market, we don't have very much fear of that. As I've previously mentioned, our homes, over 50% of Americans have at least 53% equity in their home. That's a big difference than before. Before, people were using their homes as a credit card to buy other things, and people didn't have much equity. If somebody has equity in their home and they're in a position where they can't pay for their home anymore, they're going to sell it. They're not going to give it back to the bank. So between the mortgage forbearances, between some of the government programs going on, we're feeling really confident that we aren't going to see a flash flood of foreclosures, which in my mind, as I've said before, is the one thing that could derail us. So with all this being said, we're still feeling fairly confident. That the mystery that nobody knows is kind of when will our market start moving again? I think we all can say that a lot of that's going to be tied to when the executive orders start to open up a bit more. We are seeing that certain states have or are kind of loosening things up. Us in Chicago, we're still kind of stuck in ours until the end of May. I still think it's the right thing to do. So the question, I think, is I think our recovery is going to be very much tied to the timeline. And I do think the other thing that I'm seeing that people are really starting to realize is that where we're still expecting something in a little bit more of a V shape, and a lot of the economists are still projecting this, is that a V-shaped recovery. I think kind of the new understanding is that based on the fact that our new normal is going to be different, the recovery might be a little bit slower than a true V shape. It's still expected to make, as Goldman Sachs said, an unprecedented recovery. That word and pivoting have been a little bit overused, but there still is a lot of confidence that it's going to bounce back pretty quickly. But I think the shape that they're now talking a little bit more about is a little bit more of a checkmark shake. so that we saw a pretty drastic fall. Not a lot of time at the bottom, but that the recovery is still going to be going in that V shape, but maybe a little bit more like that than the straight to V shape. And that I think makes sense, because I do think that that's going to be the part of our recovery that is a little bit of an unknown to us, is how comfortable people are getting out there. And then because of that, as we've talked about, I think we're going to have a little bit of a strangle on our inventory. I still think that even when things loosen up, some sellers are going to say, I just don't know if I'm comfortable dealing with that all this year. And, you know, people are going to feel wiped out after getting through this. This is a big deal. So, that being said, I think that the good news is that the market is still performing pretty much the way we're expecting it to. There haven't been any real crazy, wild things that have happened. We're still feeling really confident. You know, it's tough out there. It's absolutely tough out there. It's tough to be a buyer. It's tough to be a seller. But the markets are performing as we are expecting it to. The programs in place, the government involvement, everything is really proving to, as of right now today, to be working in the way that we want to. So right now we're kind of waiting for that pause button to get hit again. You know, we are out there doing more and more business each week, making sure we're really safe about it. But I'm still feeling a good amount of confidence in where our market's at, despite the world pandemic that we find us in. So I just thought that was a good check-in, a little bit of a, you know, we haven't talked too much about exactly where the market's at. So I thought that was good stuff. Anyways, on that note, be kind. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Take care of yourself. Take care of one another. Be smart in your social distancing. Be responsible, as I say. Certain states are loosening up more and more. Just make sure that we're being wise. I don't want us to lose more people than we have to in this. I'm thrilled that you're part of my journey here. Thank you so much for being a part of it. You guys are supporting me just as much as hopefully I'm bringing some support to you. And thank you for getting me through another day. I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow.